gave birth to the Tamarad, or rebel campaign. On June 30th, 2013, on his first anniversary as president, millions of Egyptians gathered to denounce their leader. The writing was in the sky. Egypt's future president al-Sisi, the chief of the armed forces, ousted Morsi on July 3rd.
Let's talk a little bit about Egypt. And last week, Egypt lost the first civilian democratically elected president since nobody, or never, ever. And he is also the first president to die since 81, you know. Sadat was assassinated by a military man, and they claim he's Islamist. Revolution in 2011, then we toppled Mubarak, 18 days, toppled 30 years of dictatorship. Everybody was hoping for change, freedom, dignity, justice, the chanting in Tahrir Square. And there was a presidential election, and this is the first fair and square presidential elections. We have Morsi, which they call him in Egypt the step. This guy wasn't even thinking about getting involved in politics. Fair and square, again, is another military general, Ahmed Shafiq. And Morsi won, you know. 13 million people voted for Morsi. And other election for constitution amendments and election for parliament, Islamists won the majority. And within 1 year, before even Morsi find out where the bathroom is, before he knows where the dining room is, they used to eat on the floor. And before he knows what's going on, and I didn't think he knew what was going on, incompetent, naive. He thought he can play politics with the military. And he was toppled by his own Minister of Defense, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. And Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, all he did during the revolution, he was the head of a division that their main job is to force virginity test on young women, Tahrir Square. That is all he done. And elevated himself during Morsi, became the Minister of Defense. They fabricated a protest, an uprising against Islamists and against Morsi. And with the Gulf money and the endorsement of Israel and the West, the counter-revolution were able to topple Morsi. And Morsi was kidnapped from his office for almost a month. Nobody knew where he was. And then started a trial. A trial is no other trial. It's like a trial of Zenda. I mean, this guy was considered the most dangerous man in Egypt. He was not allowed to speak. He was isolated. He was imprisoned for, in confinement. He was, put in cage. He was not treated well. His illness, diabetic, prevented from getting his medication. Medical neglect was strategically designed by doctors to finish him off. And his last appearance on the court, he was complaining about his health. He was saying things nobody knew what was going on. And audio leaks showed that he was complaining about her health. In fact, he cannot hear anybody. He starts seeing things and put him in mirrors. It's driving him nuts and crazy, disoriented, and eventually collapsed. In some eyewitness, they said they left him on the ground for 20 minutes before a doctor came. Some others say a doctor from the other cells broke the cages and they stormed to try to save him. It was too late. It was announced dead on arrival. And And nobody, the West ignoring all of this, and the Egyptian media ignore all of this. Nobody was talking about this first democratically elected president been died or been killed in the front of an audio in a court where justice is performed and guaranteed to a citizen until proven guilty. And it's amazing the blackout on the media there in Egypt. Nobody was allowed to talk about the former president. Nobody was allowed to commemorate first and only democratically elected president. It's just a tragic death, tragic event. It showed that how paranoid the military regime of Sisi is, and how fearful of a second rated member of the Brotherhood, that he was elected a president 6 years ago. This guy was in prison for 6 years, with so much neglect and so much tragic treatments of him until he dropped dead. And as long as Sisi is getting aligned with International Monetary Fund and war on terrorism and peace with Israel, he will get away with murder like Mohammed bin Salman when he got away with murder with Khashoggi. And that's the problem, a dilemma with the West, that they are supporting dictator, supporting mass murder in their area. Now we have the G20 where they are welcoming Mohammed bin Salman, they are welcoming El-Sisi, legitimized mass murder. They are the biggest recruiter of terrorists in the Middle East. Those are dictatorship. Those people who are protecting the Middle East, our man in Cairo, who is a butcher of Cairo, committed the biggest massacre in Egypt, in Egyptian modern history. 1,000 people in 12 hours in the daytime, peaceful protester in Rabaa and in Nahda, and he's getting away with it because he's having peace with Israel and war with everybody else.